In this video, I'll be solving quadratic equations. I will solve a couple of them by factoring, and then I will solve one using the quadratic formula. Okay, let's begin. The first problem I have will be p plus 1/2 squared equals 9/4. Okay. So the first thing we want to do is we want to put this quadratic in standard form, all right? So let's go ahead and do that. So what we're going to do is the easiest way is to put this like this, right? Because p plus 1/2 squared is just basically p plus 1/2 times itself. So we're going to just write that out, and then we're going to multiply. So we've got p squared, right? And then 1/2 p plus 1/2 p plus 1/4. Okay, so let's go ahead and add our like terms. We have 1/2 plus 1/2 is 1, so we just have p, 1p plus 1/4 equals 9/4. All right, let's get our other like terms over here. So our 9/4 we can combine with 1/4. So let's go ahead and get that over there. Right? So to get this over there, we've got to minus it from here. So what we have to do to one side, we have to do to the other side. And then we're left with 0 on this side. All right. So again, let's go ahead and combine our like terms. So we have 1/4 minus 9/4. Okay? So 1/4 minus 9/4 is minus 8/4. And minus 8/4, right? 8 divided by 4 is 2. So we're left with minus 2. All right. So now we have the quadratic in standard form. All right. So now we can go ahead and factor that. All right. So what we want to do is once the quadratic's in standard form, let's go ahead and get the values of a, b, and c so that we can go ahead and factor that. So a is 1, b is 1, and c is minus 2. All right. Since a is 1, we can go ahead and use our sum and product puzzle, right? So we need to find a pair of numbers that multiply together to give us the top number, right? So we're going to look for two numbers that multiply together to give us minus 2. So that goes up here. And then we need two numbers that add together to give us the bottom number, right? The sum, which is this middle number here, b, 1. So what two numbers multiply together to give us minus 2, but add together to give us 1, right? So we're going to look at 1 times 2, right? That gives us 2, but we need it to be a minus, but adding together, it needs to be 1. So actually, it has to be positive, so our bigger number has to be a positive, right? So 2 times minus 1 is minus 2, and 2 plus a minus 1 is 1, all right? So those are our factors that we're going to use, right? So we have p. So we have one of them's plus 2, and the other one's going to be minus 1. So if we factored this all back out, okay, if we multiplied this all back out, we would be left with our original quadratic up here. All right? Okay, so now what we want to do is we want to apply the zero product principle, okay, which is, remember back that it says is if a times b is 0, then either a is 0 or b is 0. So we need to set each of these factors equal to 0 and then solve it. Okay, I just put these in parentheses. You don't need the parentheses, but I'm just trying to show you where we got these. Okay, so in order to get p by itself, right now 2 is being added to it, so we're going to undo that. What you do to one side, you have to do to the other side, right? So we're left with p equals minus 2. And then on this one here, we want to get rid of the 1, because remember, we're trying to isolate p p. All right, so right now we're subtracting 1, so to undo that we have to add. All right, so here we have our solution set presented. Okay, so our solution set is minus 2 and 1. And then to check our work, we just go ahead and plug these values back in, and then that will help us check our work to verify that our solution set is correct. All right. All right, so let's check this first one here with minus 2. So we're going to substitute p for minus 2. And then we're going to substitute p for 1. Okay, let's do this one first. All right, so we've got our values plugged in there, right? So this becomes minus 3 halves, and that multiplied is positive 9. 2 times 4, 2 times 2 is 4. Yep, that checks out. Okay, so let's go ahead and do this one. So we're going to do the parentheses first. So we end up with 3 over 2. And now we're going to do our exponents. 3 times 3, 2 times 2. Yep. All right. So our solution set checks out. So our solution set answer is minus 2 and 1. All right. So let's go ahead and start the next problem. Okay, our next problem is minus x squared plus x plus 6 is 0, okay? So the first thing we want to do is let's go ahead and factor the minus 1 out of all of the terms. We want to get our quadratic in standard form, all right? And we want our value, we want a to be positive. So let's go ahead and get this ready for factoring. So let's go ahead and multiply each term by minus 1. And what you do to one side, remember you have to do to the other side. But because this other side's 0, it's still gonna be 0. All right. So minus 1 times minus x squared is x squared. Minus 1 times x is minus x. Minus 1 times 6 is minus 6. All right, so now it's in standard form. And we can collect our a, b, and c values. So a is 1, b is minus 1, and c is minus 6. Okay, so again what we need to do is we need to find the pair of numbers that multiply together to give us the top number here. So let me do this over here. They multiply together to give us minus 6, okay? It's the AC method, right? A times C. Those two numbers that multiply together to give us minus 6 must add together to give us minus 1, which is B in the middle there. All right, so let's go ahead and just list out the factors that give us minus 6 when we multiply. All right, so we have 1 and 6, we have 2 and 3. That's it. That's what we have. So which of these will give us minus 6 when we multiply and minus 1 when we add them together? Looks like we'll be able to do that with 2 and 3. All right, and since this is going to be minus, 3 must be minus. All right, so let's go ahead and factor this out. And so we have x, and we have a positive 2 and a minus 3. All right, so now we get to apply our zero product principle, right? If A times B is 0, then either A is 0 or B is 0. So let's go ahead and do that. And then we'll solve for x. So x is minus 2 or x is 3. All right, so our solution set is minus 2, 3. Okay, so let's go ahead and check our work. So to check our work, we replace x with each of these values. So the first one we'll go ahead and replace it with minus 2 squared plus minus 2 plus 6. And then we'll do it again for with 3. So we have and then this is 3 squared plus 3 plus 6. All right, so let's go ahead and do this one first. So this one is minus 2 times minus 2 is positive 4, but it's going to be a minus. All right, so plus a minus 2 is minus 2 plus 6. And then minus 4 minus 2 is minus 6 plus 6. And minus 6 plus 6 is indeed 0. So that checks out. So let's go ahead and do this one. 3 times 3 is 9, so we have minus 9 plus, and I'll just add these 3 and 6 is 9, right? And as you can see, minus 9 plus 9 is 0. So these check out. Okay, the next problem we're going to do, we're going to solve using the quadratic formula. So let me go ahead first and just write what the quadratic formula is. So we have that as our reference. Minus b plus or minus the square root of our discriminant, which is b squared minus 4 times a times c over 2 times a. Okay, so that's our quadratic formula. So here is our problem. Our problem is, and let me do this in a different color. Let's go green. Okay, so our problem is 3y squared plus 2y minus 4 is 0. Okay, so the first thing that we want to do is we want to plug all of the values into the formula, okay, in the parentheses. So let's go ahead and do that. So we have y equals minus 2. Actually, let me go ahead and just define the values so it's easier to see what they are. So we have 3. So a is 3, b is 2, and c is minus 4. All right, so y equals minus b, and b is 2. And then we have plus or minus the square root of b squared, and b is 2, so it's 2 squared, minus 4 times a times c. All of that over 2 times a, and a is 3. All right. So now the simplification begins. So let's go ahead and start simplifying. I'm going to start simplifying under the square root first. So we have minus 2 plus or minus. All right, so 2 times 2 is 4. Minus, and so multiplication from left to right, right? So 4 times 3, 12, and then this is minus 4. Okay, I'll just do it over here. 4 minus, and then 12 times minus 4 is minus 48. So now we'll come down here. We have minus 2 plus or minus. And then 4 minus a minus 48. So really we're saying 4 plus 48. Okay. So what's 4 plus 48 is 52. 2 times 3. All right. All right, so now to simplify 52, we need to find our perfect squares, all right? So let's go ahead and do that. So to do that, I'm going to just factor out 52 and look for our perfect squares. So I'm going to do that right over here. And I'm going to do that in a different color because I'm going to erase it as soon as we're done. All right, we'll go purple. Okay, so let's factor out 52 and look for some perfect squares. Well, we know it's divisible by 2, so let's go ahead and start there. So 2 goes into 52 26 times, right? So this is done, it's prime. Let's factor out this. We know 2 goes into that, so that goes 2 times 13. Okay, so we're down to our prime. So right away, you can see we have 2 repeating factors here, so there's a perfect square. So 4 times 13 is 52, so that's what we're going to use. So let me go ahead and erase this. So we have minus 2 plus or minus, and I'll just break it out under here so you can see the results that we had. So our perfect square is 4, so this becomes minus 2 plus or minus over 2 times 3. And let me get us some more room here. Let's go ahead and cancel out. So we're left with minus 1 plus or minus square root of 13 over 3. So this is our solution set in radical form. Okay, so this is radical form. And the instructions would also like for you to present your final solutions as a decimal approximation, all right? So, and it wants it carried out to the 3rd decimal place. So let's go ahead and do that. So let's first do minus 1, and we'll do plus the square root of 13 over 3, and then we'll do minus 1 minus the square root of 13 over 3. So again, we're going to get our decimal approximations, okay? So minus 1 plus, so what is the square root of 13 as a decimal? So we're going to do 13 square root. Which is 3.60555 over 3. And so minus 1 plus 3.60555 is 2.60555 over 3. Zero 0.8685, and I went out 4 because we want to go out 3. Okay, so rounding this, it's going to be 869. All right, so that's our first one. Now let's go ahead and do this one. We're going to minus the square root of 13, and we figured out the square root of 13 in decimal form is 3.60555. And this is an approximation. You'll never get a true value when it's in decimal form because it just goes on forever, right? It's an irrational number. Okay. So minus 1 minus 3.60555 is minus 4.60555 divided by 3, which when you divide that out, you're going to get minus 1.5351. And so if we go out just 3 decimal, that's going to be minus 1.535. All right, so our solution set in decimal form is going to be 0.869 and minus 1.535. All right. So using the quadratic formula, you'll work on all types of quadratic equations, but factoring, as you can see, it seems to be a little bit quicker and easier if it's a possible choice for your equation. So that concludes this video.